Hey everybody, Steve here, Local Level Podcast. I'm sitting here with David McNaney of David McNaney Photography. You can check him out at davidmcnaney.com.
Perfect.
And, wherever you are on social, I'm sure you can probably find the links as well. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, Steve. Pleasure.
Yep. So we'll just dive right into it. We had a conversation a few days back, and we were talking about, kind of like what resonates with you. And, I don't know exactly how to start, but the art of photography is something that you decided to build a career around.
Did.
What about art made you decide that was what you got to do?
I've always kind of had a crossroad between what I call technology and creativity, right? Mm-hmm. It stems back to my days in college. Realize when I was in college, the internet was like at its infancy. I don't want to date myself, but let's be honest, it was. I had never had a technology background. And I worked in a computer lab at college and started just kind of fiddling with programs and learning the applications. And I got stuck on doing a lot of what I call desktop publishing. So it allowed me to continue with the creativity, but still get that IT side of it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that really is how I got stuck on with technology, right? It just snuck up on me during college. The creativity stuff has always been there. It goes back to when I was a kid. I always had a strong side of it when it comes to art and color and light and so forth. And, when I picked up a camera for the first time, it blends both of those just perfectly. Yeah. And it kind of clicked as far as what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And this is something that I touched on before, the fact that, capturing the emotion in art is something that's older than the camera itself.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of an ancient thing that people have been striving for over as long as somebody knew how to speak or whatever, probably before, right?
Yep.
So now that you have a camera, it's a tool that allows you to do that in a better, more efficient way. What about, obviously you're an artist first.
I think so. I agree with that statement. Yeah.
So what about the camera attracted you, as opposed to all the other different art forms that you got into?
I think the camera I started shooting when digital first hit the market, right? That's the very first camera I picked up was a digital camera.
Okay.
Right. And being able to have that instant gratification, or back then, instant frustration for not coming out the way you wanted. I think that helps with creativity, right? You always want that creativity to continue just to flow and not get disruptive when you're trying to take what's in your mind and make it a reality. Digital allows you to do that, right? And for me, I think that's what helps me bring my imagery to life, is being able to see that instantly whether something's going to work or not. And it helps you to, kind of create your style of shooting.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because you nailed like three of the questions that I was going to ask. Like,
well, that's
touched on it perfectly. So, the first thing was the fact that digital does allow you to use technology for post, as opposed to film where it's done and it's done. So does that, obviously it can help you. You have more tools in your tool belt, but does it overcomplicate it sometimes?
Well, you definitely can get overboard real fast, right? We talk about lighting, we talk about composition, we talk about colors. There's a lot of things you're looking at when you're looking through a viewfinder, right? Yeah. I think any good photographer will try to keep it simple.
Right.
Especially when you first start out, you're just thrown so many things are thrown at you, right?
Yeah.
Let's not even get into the equipment alone, but there's a lot of things. So I think for any photographer when they start is to kind of keep something simple, right? Is trying to learn either a specific type of genre or learn a specific type of composition and then move on to the next thing. I think digital cameras sometimes can make it complicated. By all means, there's a lot more of a learning curve.
Yeah.
But it's up to the photographer just to kind of keep it simple, step by step.
So you got to learn your tool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm still learning. I will always be a student of photography. There are just so many things that you want to continually do. And, when you start getting into creatively trying to expand what you know and what you want to provide, it's limitless.
Yeah.
So you got to keep learning.
Yeah. I mean, the art's all around you. It's a matter of kind of capturing it in whatever way is your style. So
yeah.
Everybody kind of puts their own little twist on what it is that they're doing. If you take 50 people to take a picture of that wall, you're going to get 50 different versions.
I hope so.
So what would you say, how would you describe your style, your comfort zone, where your wheelhouse really is?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really, if you asked me that question probably about 2 years ago, I would still say my style's really undefined. Over the course of the last year, I've started to get a little more defined as far as what I like.
Yeah.
For me, it's a couple things. I definitely am more of a contemporary portraiture, and I like some of the muted tones. Think about, your Vogue magazines and so forth, and those type of imagery where you don't have a lot of bright colors popping out. There's a lot more matted finishes. But then when I do a lot of commercial headshots, it's just the opposite. Yeah. It's a lot of really super flat lighting, which, is super complimentary to a lot of folks, and it's a lot of vivid colors. So, I would say those are my two defined styles. Now, I'm not limiting myself to anything. I'm still picking up new things that I like to do.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever put myself in a box of just one type of style. I think it depends on your client, depends on your personal project that you're doing, and you want to continue growing as an artist as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of times with these types of careers, you're limited because you're dictated by the clients that you have.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you at the end that hopefully it'll interest you. It'll interest me, I know that. But so I mean, like the business aspect of it, getting into the business of photography, because it's a whole different thing. The art is one thing, but a lot of artists, they're either artists and they have to have somebody to help them with business or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're doing this yourself, right?
Yep.
So tell me about the business aspect of the art and how that kind of affects what you do.
Yeah. So if you ever want to become a photographer and let's say you start Googling, how do I start a photography business and so forth, about 95% of the content you find is more on the creativity side.
Yeah.
There's very little on the business side. And even your most famous photographers today, very little on the business acumen.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge miss.
Yeah.
For me, being a business owner and being a photographer business owner, the minority of my time is behind the camera, shooting, right? Majority of my time is marketing, accounting, looking to expand the business, taking all the business stuff that you have to do behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And being a small business owner, that's also another challenge as well, right? And learning all the rules and laws and everything like that and trying to figure out a way to survive. I wish that people realize that a lot more when you start any type of business, especially in photography.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you start something, there's a million things that you didn't really plan for or didn't realize you had to plan for.
Yeah.
So,
but it's exciting though too. Don't get me wrong.
Sure. Yeah. It's exciting until you need to, go get a job.
Yeah. It's exciting until the revenues are gone.
Yeah. Right. So what are some of the biggest things that surprised you, that kind of came up when you decided you were going to do this on your own?
So I've always been a quote unquote planner.
Okay.
So it still was a leap of faith jumping into my own business. Don't get me wrong, it still was. But I also come from 24 years on the IT selling side of the business.
Gotcha.
Ever since college, right? That's how I started. So I think my business acumen is rather strong. My degree from college is in marketing and professional selling. So I think the business side was the one I was most comfortable with.
Wow.
I think I'm very attuned to what I need to do to survive and continue building this business.
Yeah.
But it's, it's like with anything else, you're starting out and you're building clients, and how do you get that message out and how do you continue doing that? And then, be successful in providing the product that they're after.
Yeah.
And then still taking care of everything else that the business requires. It's a juggle. It's, and there are days that you want to pull your hair out. I mean, you do. It's like, what am I doing? Did I make the right choice? Did I make the right leap of faith?
Yeah.
But then there are days like, yeah,
you did.
Yeah, this is it.
Right.
I mean, this is what I want to do. My biggest challenge was, again, like I said, I come from 24 years of professional selling in an IT environment on a very structured day, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was regimental, up at 6,
wow,
out in the office by 8 o'clock and work until 6, right?
It's a big change.
It is. Now I'm my own business owner. The biggest challenge for me was day one it wasn't a regimental day.
What do I do now?
Yeah, so you have to start structuring your own day, and you start writing your own tasks, what you need to do. And I still struggle with that. Sometimes when I'm not crazy busy, like I used to be stuck in a cubicle, you kind of wonder, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
But that's also, it's the exciting part of it too. Some of the unknown,
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because this topic has come up, or, like sales has come up all day.
Yeah.
And I think that almost every business owner that I've talked to pretty much has some sort of background in sales or marketing.
You have to.
I mean, that's what it is. Doing a business is pretty much selling yourself and your product and, selling it to yourself.
Yeah.
Selling yourself to yourself a lot of times.
I always said this, and friends of mine will probably laugh, but every person is a salesperson.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
Whether you're trying to convince someone of an idea that you have, or you're trying to sell a physical product, everybody's a salesperson.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just levels of skill.
I'm constantly selling to my kids, trying to get them to, follow me what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
Right. It's a battle.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So you were in IT sales. So what specifically were you selling? Software?
So I was selling hardware and software.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about it. It was everything from printers all the way up to network servers and security and infrastructure, data centers, you name it.
So where did photography come into this mix?
That's a good question. So it had to be about 15, 20 years ago. My wife and I are on vacation with friends of ours, and my buddy has a camera. And again, like I mentioned, I think it was just when digital hit the market. So I'm like, let me see that,
Wow.
And I gave it back to him like 2 hours later. And I was just monkeying around with the camera, and it was kind of cool just kind of see, trying to figure out what you could shoot. And again, getting that instant gratification back on the digital camera. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. I like this. So I bought my first digital camera. I think it was a Sony. It wasn't a professional model or anything like that. It was more of just a handheld. I don't even remember what it was.
Something.
Pardon me?
A Mavica or something like that.
I don't even remember the name, what Sony were branding them back then. But, it's about like a little 3-4 inch screen.
Yeah.
But it kind of clicked with me, right?
Yeah.
No pun intended, but it kind of clicked as far as I like being able to have this and shoot and create something, right?
Right.
So I started shooting just, landscapes was kind of my thing for a while. And then, my kids are born and their activities are coming around. So I started just kind of documenting their life a little bit. And then someone asked me to do some portraits for a school talent show.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. I've never done that.
Sure.
So, I set up, props, and I set up, a backdrop, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. I kind of like the stage that we're setting here. And then having someone in front of the camera, it was the first time I'm directing them.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a collaboration working back and forth, and I'm directing their poses and so forth. And dude, it just hit me.
Wow.
I really like this. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about it. I like the direct model, right? And just working with somebody and bringing, again, my image of what I want to create to life. So fast forward, probably like 5-10 years after that, I was shooting part-time, doing portraits and events here and there.
Yeah.
Talked to my wife probably about 3-4 years ago. I said, I want to do this. I want this to kind of be my next iteration of my career, right? I'm kind of done with the IT. I've kind of had that to exhausted.
It has to be so boring after a while.
It gets to be a grind.
Yeah.
So I said, I want to do this, And, having kids and so forth, you have a lot of financial responsibilities.
Yeah, of course.
You got to take care of.
A tough time to make a change.
Talk about a leap of faith.
Yeah, big time.
So we were planning on it for a few years, and then get to a point where financially that, their academic or their education will be established. 3 years ago, we built a studio, so that way we can do some inside sessions, since we live in the Midwest and outdoor photography just doesn't last year round.
Yeah.
So we built the studio, and then a year ago this month is when I made the jump from part-time to full-time and left my career and left a pretty good paying career.
Yeah.
That really, helped us get to this point. And I have not looked back. I miss some of the guys I work with, by all means, but
you work from home now, or?
Yeah. And but I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The ups and downs, the ebbs and flows are great. Like I said, there are some days where it's crazy, but I've made the right move. Put it that way.
Yeah, I got the same thing. I mean, it's the thing about it is, whenever you take that leap of faith, nobody ever takes a leap of faith and makes twice as much.
No, let's not kid ourselves. Photography is not a lucrative business by no means. I don't know many billionaire photographers. Maybe I'll be the first. Who knows? That would be great. But I have a vision, right? I want to build a big studio business where I have photographers working under me and my business model I've developed.
Yeah.
And, I want to be able to have all type of genres so we can service our clients from the time they're married to the time they give birth to the time their kids graduate and move on, right?
Wow, yeah.
That's my goal. So I know I'll get there. It'll take some time, but I'm getting there.
Well, that's all it takes. It's the belief.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. And a camera.
And a lot of effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of effort.
Yeah, a lot of effort, definitely. And do you still talk to your friend that handed you the camera for the first time?
I do. Yeah.
Do you thank him?
I do. And I make fun of him how bad pictures he takes now.
Oh, man. Yeah. You've surpassed. What is it? What do they call it? The pupil surpasses the...
Yeah. The teacher has become this... the student has become the teacher.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a pretty awesome story that you just picked it up one day and it just clicked. Not a lot of people have that opportunity to really just snap into the thing that they're calling, really, or they're called for.
See, I wish people would go after what they truly want to do. Yeah. I tell my kids this all the time. I said, life goes by real fast. We all know this. We've heard it a million times.
Yeah.
It's, for me, I've got to a point where it's all about the experience. It's not about the tangibles anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The big houses, the fancy cars, the nice clothing, all that stuff.
Right.
I want to live life and have experiences. I want to create things that I'm proud of that hopefully will become a legacy for other people, right?
Definitely.
And photography is that great outlet for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely, good art lasts.
Yeah.
It makes an impact. And so that goes into another question that I had. So, when you see good art, when you see a good picture, an image, whatever that art is, you can't describe that feeling that you get when it's really, really good. You know it. You can feel it. What do you think it is?
Well, it's different for everybody, right? And that's why when it comes to art, you really can't do anything wrong. Right? Everybody has their own interpretation of what art truly is.
Yeah.
I think that's what's the beautiful part of it. Art should be something that stops you in your path and gets your attention, whether it be for 10 seconds or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what I'm trying to create, right? And I'm trying to create that for my clients, and give them experience while doing it. And again, for my clients, I want to create something that they want to hang on to forever and pass down to their next generation. Mm-hmm. For me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's powerful. I was on your website. I was looking at your website, and you have a picture when your family's on horses.
Yeah.
And I had to look at it a couple of times because I was looking at it and it looked like it was like an impressionistic painting, because it wasn't blown up. It was like you can see it, but I looked at it and it looked like it was painted. And I double take. Oh, that's an actual picture that you did the lighting in a way where it's not a picture. And I had to look at it for a while. So you got something there.
For that, it's one of those, moments that the lighting is right. And that was purely an outdoor portrait.
Yeah.
Right. And it was something that, if you tried recreating again, you won't get it. Right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that photography does. It allows you to document and seal that moment. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know exactly the picture you're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody that's interested, I mean, go to McNaney.com. I believe it's on your About page.
It is.
And you'll see that it's the picture with the horses. Go to that site and check that out. Trust me, it's something to see. So yeah, that's good stuff, definitely. And so you said that you never really got into the business with film. Have you tried to get into film at all?
I have not. It's something I start smirking when I talk about it, because I think it's. I've had this conversation with other photographers, right? And the ones that have done film before, we say it's the humble equation.
Yeah.
Because you kind of need to know what you're doing when you're working with film.
Right. You don't.
First of all, it's expensive as crap, so you don't have a lot of unless you want to burn money.
Right.
But you do need to know what you're doing. So I think at some point in my near future, I probably will
Give it a shot when you
Yeah, I think so. And two, I think it's another tool to help you with the creative side of it, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to film, you definitely need to know what you want to shoot, right? And so you kind of have to have, again, that image in mind of how you want that to come out.
Now, when you look at something, a photographer a lot of times, or you have a different view on things. Do you look at something in a way where it's like, do you find yourself reaching for your camera when you're walking around during the day?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I wish I could actually shrink my camera, my actual camera that I use all the time, into a much smaller portable size I could carry.
Sure.
Because for me, it's composition and lighting. It's like my two big things I'm always looking at, right? It's how I'm framing something as I'm looking at it, and then just the color and the light that I'm seeing. And it's all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I walk my dog a lot, and I'm always looking around. And one of the things I enjoy about doing that is because I'm always looking around, right?
And you're thinking.
And it definitely allows me to clear my brain.
Yeah.
Business owner, we got a lot of things cranking on up there. Mm-hmm. But the lighting and the framing is constantly in my mind as far as how I see something and how I want to possibly recreate it, and how can I use it in my work, right?
Yeah.
I recently we did a shoot, and we had to scout a location. The family wanted to do something on location. We actually ended up in the West Loop, Chicago. I haven't been to the West Loop, Chicago probably in like 8-10 years.
Sure.
Amazing transformation.
Yeah.
If you haven't been to West Loop, go to the West Loop. It's such a cool area. But I spent probably about 12 hours in 2 different trips just walking around that area, seeing the different compositions, the different angles, the colors, the lighting, and of course now, the architecture and the landscapes.
Yeah, Chicago architecture is like,
it's amazing.
And photographer kid in a candy store.
Oh, forget it. I mean, you could be out there all day. And we had a really, really fun photo shoot, and the downside was it just wasn't long enough. I could have been out there for like 6 hours.
Now, do you actively scout jobs that are going to be interesting to you, or do you?
Anything that's on location, we do scout ahead of time. Again, I'm a planner, and I want to know kind of an idea of what I want to shoot ahead of time. Most of the time, my clients don't know where they want to go. They want to be somewhere cool and somewhere different.
Yeah.
So they kind of leave it up to me, and I just kind of get an idea of what they're creatively thinking about, what they don't like. And I start showing them some imagery and kind of build what I call an inspiration board, which is, colors and textures and, styles that they want to look at.
Yeah.
And helps kind of form the overall mood of what they want to accomplish on their shoot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, I think that any creative planning that's some sort of visual representation before you do it.
Yeah.
Now, I know when we were talking, you don't really have any, just because you do preparation before and you kind of bounce people before, if you don't mesh, am I right? Like as far as bad customers or people that aren't feeling what your style or whatever. Have you had to deal with that, or?
I've not had any bad clients yet.
Yeah.
And hopefully I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple things that helps our business is clear communication and constant, right? There's a lot of moving parts. So I want to make sure there's never any surprises for a client, right? And then I always have a consultation before we even spend $1 with me, right?
Right.
I want to make sure you know what is my style. I want to know what you want me to create.
Uh-huh.
I want you to know what the investment would be to do that, and really what is your outcome. If I create an image, how do you want to display it? Are you looking to put it into a folio album? Are you looking to create wall art? What do you want to do? So expectation is huge, and I make sure that error is cleared long before they invest any more time.
Yeah, you have to. That probably goes with your sales background.
I think so. The sales background has helped me just be comfortable talking with people.
Yeah.
I'm a client too. I spend money, and I have certain level of expectation when I walk into any establishment and so forth, right? And as long, if something goes wrong, as long as it's communicated to me right away before I have to say something, I'm okay with that, right? And that's my goal when it comes to my clients, right? Mm-hmm. Is make sure that I orally communicate to them, and then let them know what's going on too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always best to not leave any stone unturned where there could be an objection,
No, another thing too is, I want them to feel 100% comfortable with me because I'm asking a lot of them, right? I'm asking someone to get in front of my camera who's never been in front of a camera before and be natural.
Yeah.
What's the success model in doing that? It's very low. So, I have to build a rapport with them. I have to build some trust with them.
Of course.
And I have to let them realize that, hey, you're, it's like an Allstate commercial. You're in good hands. Sure. I'm going to help you with your expressions. I'm going to coach you through this. Again, it's a collaboration.
Yeah, it's an intimate thing too, because a lot of the subjects that you're probably covering are very important things. Portraits, family stuff, where you around the kids and communicating with kids. There's something to that there. And now, is that part of what you enjoy about the process, or is that a fulfilling part of what you're doing?
I do like working with people. I'm not going to lie. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
Like I said, I think, being behind the camera is the minority part of the time. The majority part of the time is working with your clients, right?
Yeah.
And setting the itineraries, setting the expectations, setting the steps, letting them know what we're doing all the way through, and then what comes after, answering any questions they might have. And a lot of times, folks don't know what they want to do. They definitely want to get some portraits, but they don't know what the process is. They don't know creativity-wise. So there's a lot that depends on me to answer those questions. Yeah. So, and that's fine. That's part of the business model we built out. So.
Yeah. And now, social media culture, there's a lot of like Insta photographers out there.
Yeah.
And they're usually taking pictures that they never look at again.
Yeah.
They're just a one-time use. It's a disposable picture. I'm sure that's changed the industry, and it's probably changed people's expectations. How has that presented itself to you with your business?
So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with social media.
Yeah.
As far as a business owner, it's a requirement, right?
Yeah.
It's how I'm communicating with my clients and my potential clients.
Right.
It's how they're first getting introduced to me, right? So they need to have a little bit of a glimpse inside the business, inside the people running it, right?
Yeah.
But it's also, on the flip side of it, it creates a lot of noise, right? So how do I set myself apart from the instant photographers we talked about and so forth?
Yeah.
It's tricky, right? Mm-hmm. My biggest thing is I don't like reproducing something that's been done already.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right? That's not something I ever want to do. You are definitely influenced and inspired by others' work, but you never copy it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's probably the biggest thing about social media right now. You see a lot of people kind of doing similar things.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're going for.
Yeah. So as a business, that's, you're not going to be able to hold water very long if you do that.
Mm-hmm. And so going off of trends and things like that, obviously every generation has their own little kind of fad style, pop culture type of thing. What do you think is going to last? What do you think is going to go away that's happening right now that people ask for customer-wise?
God, I hope the selfie. I'm not a fan of selfies. My kids know that. So hopefully the selfies will go away. I'm not sure. I think selfies will evolve a little bit. I don't think, photography is I still say it is at an infancy stage as far as, especially like digital photography, right? Everybody has a camera in their hand, whether it be on your phone, whether it actually be a dedicated camera. And that's a good thing, right? It helps us document more of what is going on in our lives and so forth. Mm-hmm. But now it makes you start questioning, well, what are really the really important things, right? What are the things that you want documented and passed on to your family?
Not just a picture of your mashed potatoes.
Right, yeah, exactly. So that's why I think that's kind of the downturn to social media at times, is that there's just too much of it, and some of those real important moments get lost.
Yeah.
So I just, I hope that we don't lose those things as far as the important moments, and we still capture those. But yeah, I just hope that the selfies change a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going anywhere anytime soon. They just rolled out the Selfie.
Oh yes, the Selfie. Right. That's the slow motion video. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're really trying to push those cameras more and more.
Video is a big part of it. Was it a study I read? I think a video is viewed 80 times more than a photograph. Some of that nature. I think it was close ratio.
Something like that.
So, video is pretty important. So I think the Selfie, a quick 2-second, 3-second clip, might have a little bit of legs on it. Yeah.
Maybe you'll have less competition with the actual stills.
Yeah, that'd be all right. Yeah, the video, people ask me, are you ever going to do anything with videography? I don't know yet. I really don't.
It's a whole different animal.
It is. And it's not something that, I don't know if you can create something of a legacy type of work if you do a video. I've yet to see something.
Yeah, and another thing is, with video, the quality.
Yeah.
Once there's an expiration date on when the next generation of quality comes out.
Right.
Lower definition goes by the wayside.
It's a good point, and that's for me when it comes to photography, I'm big on. I think a portrait comes to life when it becomes physical, right? So when we do a print, we create a wall, find our wall print, or we put our portraits into an album. I think that's one that comes to life. My concern is, we keep things digital, formats change.
Yeah.
Computers do have a lifespan.
Yeah.
What happens when we lose those files? Those are lost forever.
Well, that's the thing. It's even when we had a digital camera, or not a digital camera, but a disposable camera.
Yeah.
Where you took to Osco, and you got it developed. You had actual pictures.
Yeah.
And you probably still have a box somewhere with a bunch of those pictures.
I do.
And those are the ones that you're going to actually have. The ones that you're taking this week of your sushi, or your kid at the zoo. Chances are those are going to disappear.
It's a good point. I thought about this. When you actually go through an old box of photos, you literally go through them one at a time.
And you take your time. It's not just a swipe.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I was here. What's next?
That's a good point.
And who owns your pictures? How many people can really say that they have their pictures on their computer?
Yeah.
They're on social media. It's somebody else's computer.
Yeah.
So that's it's kind of a scary thing to think if something, say the power went out one day.
It's something you have to contend with. In our studio alone, we have multiple backups and multiple archives. I have clients ask me, hey, are you going to keep all the portraits from our session? I said, yeah, we archive them all.
Yeah.
If there are a point later in time you want to come back and purchase another portrait, we have that. Mm-hmm. And, we can do that. But it's something that you constantly have to manage. You've got to watch format changes and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't want to learn that one the hard way, man.
No. Well, there's a reason that the only ancient civilizations that we know about are the ones that built out of stone, because it's all that lasts. So
the Mayans are onto something, man.
Right.
They had something going, right?
Yeah. So that there's something to having a physical, real thing.
I think
means
so.
more when it actually holds space.
Think about it. You still go to the museum.
Yeah.
What are you looking at? You're looking at art on the wall.
Things. Real
people go.
things.
People pay to see that.
Yeah.
So where did we lose that when it comes to individual portraits?
Yeah. Well, it's much different what you do compared to somebody with a an iPhone or something. And I think that.
I hope so. Otherwise,
Yeah. Otherwise.
Not gonna be around long.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the pictures, so
I think see if it's more than just putting someone in a frame and taking and hitting the shutter button, right?
Right.
We talked about this before, right? Where you're trying to get a natural response from them. You want them to be comfortable. You want them to forget about the camera being there.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's a collaboration when we're working with our clients, right? Mm-hmm. We want to create something that is them, right? Now I ask this where all our clients that come in for a consultation is, how do you want to be photographed? How do you want to see yourself in a portrait? How do you want others to see you in a portrait?
Right.
Right? It's a question people don't think about. We're taking pictures of ourselves all the time. At least the people out there taking the selfies, not me.
Yeah.
But you never think about, what kind of expression am I giving, and so forth. So it's things that we work with constantly. And it's something that I think makes a difference.
It does. And now for somebody that's thinking about getting into photography, maybe they are on an iPhone and they just really enjoy doing it and it's something that interests them. What advice would you give to that person to get better at what they do, study the craft and appreciate it beyond just what they're taking on their phone?
So if they just want to start learning photography, and I'll talk about going into the business on a separate minute, but if you just want to start photography, I always say try to keep it simple as much as you can off the bat.
Yeah.
Don't buy a lot of equipment. Start with, basic camera, basic lens.
Sure.
Master that by making a lot of mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes, especially in digital. That delete button comes in handy, man.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Make a lot of mistakes. Don't try to do everything. For me, like I said, I started with landscapes, and for me, it was capturing detail, color, and light. That was my background, right? And then I started putting people in there, and that's a whole different animal altogether. But keep it simple. Find one particular type of genre that you want to do, whether it's portraits, it's landscapes, macro photography. People still love to take pictures of flowers and plants and so forth.
Yeah.
Work on that. Get yourself comfortable with the way the camera works. Get yourself comfortable with how you can change settings, get comfortable with the lens, and then move on to the next thing. I think I started with, I started natural lighting before I even got into any studio lighting. And then that's a whole other animal altogether.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of learning curves as you go.
Right.
But once you get beyond that curve, you have a real good sense of what's going on, and you can move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful. Yeah. I mean, you got to learn your tool.
Yeah.
And it's like anything. You take steps. You can learn the chords on a guitar, but you're not Jimi Hendrix until you can shred.
I think it's probably about 2-3 years ago. I changed my workflow altogether as far as from the time I capture an image to the time that it's being delivered to a customer. And it was probably 3-4 months it took me to iron out exactly how I want it to be. And that was just, I did something different with a different application, and I learned the learning curve and got beyond it. And again, it's just, even for me, there's still things for me to learn and define and make things a bit more efficient. And don't give up, man. I mean, it can be very frustrating. And you'll have, like I said, that delete button comes in handy.
Sure.
Learn by your mistakes.
Yeah. And people can work a job and still have a hobby of photography and learn it a little over time while they're doing something else. But when you get to that point where you feel like, hey, maybe I can do this, how can they turn that skill into something that they can actually charge for? How does that work?
So for me, I actually I picked up a couple of mentors that helped me along the way and kind of showed me how to create a business model from it.
Yeah.
And that was huge. So I always say find a mentor, someone that you can rely on. I have a handful of them. Mm-hmm. One for creativity, one for financial, one for business acumen. I think that's huge. If you don't, start learning as far as what you want to offer.
Yeah.
What are you going to provide your client? Or are you just going to, take these images and just electronically send them to you? So then what's going to differentiate you from somebody else who can do the same thing? I think you really have to figure out what kind of product you want to deliver, and then how is the best way you can deliver that.
Yeah. Now, do you think that it's good to keep options open, or is it better to target a certain thing? You know what I mean? Like that you're going to sell. If you're trying to get into a business with photography, should you specialize, or should you, when you start out, should you offer multiple different things?
A little bit of both, right? There's a lot of traditional photographers out there that say you should specialize. Pick a genre, pick a market, and stick with it.
Yeah.
Well, when you're first starting out, you're not going to pay the bill. You're not going to pay the bills, right?
There's already somebody doing that that's much better than you.
Exactly. Now, I'm not saying do everything.
Yeah.
Because at some point there's going to be something that you don't do really well,
right?
And it may impact your other sides of the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep it to a handful of things that will help you along the way pay those bills and so forth.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. I actually shoot some real estate on the side. I work with a realtor. Asked me one day, say, hey, I got a house that's going on the market. Do you shoot houses? I said, no, I've never done it.
Not yet.
I've always thought about doing it. I've been kind of on the fence about it.
Right.
I said, let me try it. Let me see if I like it. And she was really cool to work with. And, she's a good friend of mine. And it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. Am I marketing that I'm doing real estate? No. And I don't think I'll build a business around that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't give me the same experience and the same love that I get from working with one-on-one on clients. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, those are something that helps fill the time, helps pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely, being a photographer and being in the photography business, there are things that you're going to have to do that wouldn't be a personal project if you had your choice.
Yeah.
And that's just with any business. But you still bring everything you can to that project, to that client, and you make it their best experience they've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. And to touch on what we were just saying, I mean, when I started out, do marketing, web design, and all things like that. But there's a lot of things that I started out doing offered that weren't a good fit, and it was just a matter of, you got to learn that. But there's things that I do now that I wouldn't be doing had I not tried those other things.
Yeah.
They introduce you, so it's, it's, I guess it's just trial and error, right?
I think that, the ups and downs, the challenges that we encounter, they all push us to get us to a point.
Yeah.
Right. And that point is what you want to do for the rest of your life, or what you want to do for the next 10 years. You're never going to learn unless you're challenged along the way. You're never going to learn unless you make mistakes along the way. I say making mistakes is the greatest way to learn anything.
Yeah.
You'll never forget something once you've made a mistake.
Absolutely.
Never. So, there are going to be things that you may not like doing, but will help define who you are and what you provide.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you don't hear them out there, then you're deaf. But it's pretty loud out there. What I was going to say was the main question that I touched on before that I really wanted to hear. If you had an unlimited budget, okay, and you could do any project, what would that project be? What would that type of work turn out? What would that look like?
So if I had an unlimited budget for a personal project, what would that be? So one of my bigger plans down the road is to be a kind of a destination photographer, right? Is really, it kind of backs up to my roots of starting when I started shooting landscapes to where I am now, where I'm shooting people, right? I want to blend that, right?
Yeah.
I want to put people in the most beautiful areas they've ever seen and just create an image that will just stop them in their tracks.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of money.
Yeah, it does. You got to go there.
Those locations are hard to get to.
Yeah.
They cost money to get there. And there's a lot more planning that goes involved with that. But yeah, that would be what I'd like to do.
That'd be the one.
Yeah. And do it more than once.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That would be like every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I appreciate you coming on. This is, the first, hopefully, of many. I'd like to have you back
that'd be great.
On. We're going to be doing a roundtable thing we talk about, so we'll definitely talk about that. But I'm going to leave it up to you. The closing thoughts. As far as what advice you could give to somebody that is just thinking about doing something, whether it's photography or just starting a business.
Yeah.
And what is your advice? What can you leave them with?
So I look back at my own personal life, right? And I say this, as I said before, everything that we've gone through, the ups and downs, defines on who you are. The only thing I probably would ever change is I wish photography would have found me a long time ago.
Sure.
Because this is truly what I love doing. I just say, we take every day for granted. And if we're not doing something that truly gets us out of bed in the morning, then we have to really question what our life is about. All right. Not to go crazy philosophical on anybody here, but
yeah,
I know it's easier said than done. But again, when I jumped into photography as far as a business, I actually said out loud to myself, I'm okay if I fail. I am expecting failures along the way.
Yeah.
Right. As much as I don't want them, I expect it to happen because there's no way I can grow without any failures.
Right.
And I think everybody has to keep that in mind. And that's with anything in life. You have to be ready to fail.
Yeah.
And that's how we learn. I said it before. We learn by making mistakes. So if anybody wants to do something, whether it be in business or just change something in life, start making a minor change every day till you get there. And if you get setbacks, that's okay. Just don't ever give up.
Learn from them.
And don't settle. Don't settle.
Yeah.
So that'd be it.
That's pretty good advice.
Yeah, we try.
We'll leave it there.
Awesome.
I appreciate it, Dave.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Appreciate having me. It was fun.